Okay, looks like they've started then.
Yeah, I was just looking for the race on SRL and I didn't find it, but they are off. So, I guess welcome everyone to another match of our Link's Awakening, The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening DX Tournament 2017. This is Group D. We have on the left ElPhezo, whose PB is 5457, and on the right we have aulos, whose PB is 5831. And that's all I've thought through so far. Both of our runners are starting off by heading down to the beach to get the sword, and they will both likely do a trick we refer to as early sword, where we do a damage boost through a cutscene to basically skip some of the overlapping cutscene time. And actually it looks like ElPhezo goes for the slightly slower route.
Goes the old method.
Yeah, he'll just grab the sword with his shield, actually, as soon as this text box ends.
The difference is only a matter of a few frames, though.
I thought it was about half a second. Like, just enough to be worth it if you get it.
The thing is, over the grand scheme, well, over the whole race, it's not really that major. Also, the time Aulos has on the board, although officially that's his PB, he did actually set his PB against me in our race, I believe. So he has gone quicker than that. I'm not sure what that time was. I think it was still a 58 something.
Alright. So, right now the runners are both heading into the forest to grab the Dungeon 1 key, and along the way there'll be a little bit of tech. First they'll head into a cave and use precise positioning and a spin slash to destroy crystals around a rock, allowing them to grab a chest more quickly. And then, after they leave this cave, they'll be doing a trick called Moblin Skip, which is, it's a pain for anyone, because you're purely at the hands of RNG. Do you want to explain that one?
Yeah, so they're going to use a damage boost from a Moblin, but they need the Moblin to be facing in the right direction, which is facing up. So Ola's getting it very, very quickly, and ElPhezo, unfortunately, he was actually in the pit, like, when the arrow's fired. He gets it second try, though. That's,
yeah, go ahead.
It's RNG because you need the Moblin to be facing up. If he's facing any other way, that's wasting you time.
Yeah, and we sort of missed it there, but they both did a trick called Owl Skip. Well, ElPhezo failed it, but it's a frame-perfect trick where you can skip the dialogue from the owl when you grab that key by leaving the screen quickly enough. And right now we have aulos getting magic powder. Some people like to joke about this being really hard, but it's practically free if you go for the visual cues.
As far as I know, there's only one person that's known for failing this. Shouts is Stanley 93.
I'm just glad I'm not known then.
It's sort of, I guess it's sort of a rite of passage in speedrunning this game to have a second try trendy game at some point.
Yeah, like, feels bad when you have a sub 1 hour time, but you can still fail it. But that really goes for about any trick in the game. No matter how much you practice, there's always the possibility.
It's sort of almost like forgetting to open Dungeon 4 as well. That happens so often. Well, more often than you'd think.
So, right now both players are just, getting the items they need from the shop. So they steal the shovel at first, Tank of Death to restore the stock of the store, and then they'll buy 2 sets of bombs and steal the bow. Some of the older routes only buy 1 set of bombs, but with a slightly newer D6 route, we don't get a pickup there, so they need to buy 2 sets of bombs here.
It's also worth noting that stealing from the shop is not a glitch. It's actually coded into the game, and if you were running in English, you'd see your name would be changed to Thief if you steal from the shop.
And also along the way to the dungeon, you'll see both players killed a few seemingly arbitrary Octoroks. That comes into something called Piece of Power routing, which allows them to plan when an item called Piece of Power drops in the game. And we'll see that towards the beginning of D2, we can explain it then. But for now, they just navigate this dungeon as quickly as they can, heading towards the Rock's Feather, an item that allows you to jump, and thereby it breaks most of the game.
It also enables super jumping, which is a massive bit of tech in this game. And we're actually going to see a super jump in this dungeon. And well, before that, we'll see aulos getting a damage boost off the spikes called Exo Boost. Oh, he did it with the shield. We don't see that often.
I think that is a little bit slower. You may see that some of the players seem to be partially inside of the walls here, and that's a trick we use called wall clipping, and that's a large part of getting the super jump trick that Kravon mentioned. You'll see aulos doing it very shortly, where he clips into a wall and then he jumps into the wall and shoots an arrow away from it, and that sort of tricks the game into thinking he's jumping off a ledge, so he's able to get a bit of well, the game thinks he's higher than he is, so he can go over certain items. Like that key block there.
So it looks like ElPhezo is starting to catch up. He was quite a bit behind after first 5 minutes because of Moblin skip and missing owl skip. But he's slowly catching up to aulos now.
aulos has a very good multi-arm fight. This is arguably the hardest boss in the game, despite being the first one, but it is pure RNG. I mean, there are obviously strategies to do it, but oh, ElPhezo does it well again. But especially for newer players, it's very hard to get quickly. And sometimes you'll just knock into the pit, and then it moves you to an underground screen, and you have to escape from there to come back.
So, aulos actually got a very competitive time on exiting Dungeon 1 there. Ooh, aulos missing one of the Octoroks there. So, I guess we'll explain Piece of Power now. So, Piece of Power drops every 30 enemies that you kill. Now, the reason why we don't kill enemies before we go to the shop is because a death actually resets that counter. Now, Piece of Power, when you have it, it will increase your movement, and it will also increase how quick you pick up things, in addition to a knockback that it gives when you're attacking enemies. Now, the knockback we'll get into a bit later, because it can be a hindrance later on. But the main reason why we get Piece of Power is the movement speed. There's also another pickup called a Guardian Acorn, which will drop every 12 enemies that you do not take damage. And this can be a bit of a nuisance when it comes to Piece of Power, because if it drops, Piece of Power won't drop on the same screen.
There is also the issue of if you happen to have Piece of Power and then you pick up Guardian Acorn by accident, the Acorn will actually override it. As well as if you have the Acorn, Piece of Power cannot drop. So if one of them by accident somehow manages to get Acorn, you will see them probably taking a few hits of damage just so they're able to get a Piece of Power. Because there are a few spots where the damage and knockback from Piece of Power are fairly helpful. And of course, speed doesn't hurt. And right here, they'll have a little bit of RNG getting into the dungeon. Bow Wow He can eat enemies, but it's purely random. They both get it decently quickly.
So Bow Wow can be a real pain when it comes to piece of power routing in this game, because you can work out every enemy that you're going to kill in a run, but Bow Wow will kill random enemies that you go past, and there's not too much you can really do to avoid this. You just have to account for it in your piece of power routing.
Yeah, most players, between Dungeon 2 and Dungeon 3, they'll try to count the number of enemies that Bow Wow kills, in order to try to compensate that in the early dungeon. But later on in the run, it's a lot more variable how many kills you'll have, and you'd have to be some sort of robot to basically actually count it out and plan kills. So most players do get Piece of Power in Dungeons 2, 3, and 5, and most players are lucky enough to get it in 6 as well, but that's sort of just randomness.
The routing for Piece of Power generally stops after Dungeon 5, and as you say, some people do manage to get it in Dungeon 6, but usually it's through being lucky and getting it.
Even
and then
for
past
D5,
then it's even harder.
Yeah, like even for D5, it does get sort of to luck because, as Krivon mentioned, Bow Wow can just eat things and you have no control.
And especially with the Piece of Power location in Dungeon 5 being pretty tight as well.
So, enough about Piece of Power. So both runners are neck and neck here, both going right to the Dungeon 2 boss, which is Genie in a Bottle. Do you want to explain how the fight's gonna go?
Okay, so we're gonna see a two-phase quick kill here. So first of all, we have to survive a phase avoiding these fireballs. But the first part of the quick kill is that when we break the bottle, we're gonna wall clip and break it into the top left corner. And the reason for this is that this will break it completely. Otherwise we would have to hit it against the wall 3 times. Now the second part of it is that the genie will take 2 bombs to kill. And for us to get the second bomb to explode at the same time, at the right time, we initially put a bomb that's set to explode when the genie's coming near us, and then we fire a bomb arrow, so we're able to hit him twice before he sort of phases to spin around the room.
Yeah, they both had like pretty much a perfect genie fight there, which is not a surprise given their times.
I mean, there's not really much that can go wrong there, like, aside from those 2 quick kills.
I don't know, lately I've been failing the second bomb every time, but we'll see what happens in my future races. Shout out to Harpy's Shame.
Aulos falling behind because he fell in a pit there.
Yeah, it's possible to jump to pits, but it's kind of difficult. I'm not sure if it might be pixel perfect, but in any case, Aulos lost a little bit of time to it. And coming up, we're gonna have a trick called Villa Skip, which can give them a pretty big gap because it's pure RNG. Both players are gonna jump into a pit at the bottom of the screen, and then continue pause buffering 1 frame at a time until they hear a certain sound cue. And when that sound cue hears, and Aulos actually got it frame perfect, the sound cue indicates that they've been pushed down through the pit and they're able to transition there. And this skips a sizable side quest. I think it's like maybe 5 minutes to actually do the side quest. Or maybe I'm making that up.
I think it's 7 minutes if I recall correctly. Although, that's sort of like, we don't know how much of that time we could probably shave off if we had to do that side quest. We'll probably find ways to optimize that as well.
Yeah, we'll
like
probably
with
get into
everything
that
else in the
when
run.
we'll figure that out when people start rooting Krivon's ROM hack.
Or when we finally decided to have a ruling on whether villa skip's allowed or not.
Yeah, I gotta weigh in on those menu tiles, right?
We, when it comes to villa skip being allowed without being out of bounds, it's sort of a bit of a headache in discussions, to be honest.
So anyway, both players having a typical D3 so far. They just pass through the rooms as quickly as they can. And in this room that Aulos is in, yeah, he gets piece of power right there, which is exactly where you want to see it.
So
then they're both... Sorry, go ahead.
We're now encountering the first real dangerous part of the run. It's actually a place they can soft lock. And it's the Dodongo skip, which is a simple super jump, and we slash off the Dodongo to bounce over. Now it's possible to get stuck in the rock, and that will cause a soft lock.
Yeah, after you get the Pegasus boots, it may be possible to get out of it by using the boots, but that's not guaranteed. But they both passed the first jump, and there's going to be one more coming up right now for aulos, and then very shortly for ElPhezo as well. And aulos has avoided any soft locks here, which is good.
We've got about 5 minutes here where there's so much soft lock potential in this next 5 minutes, it's crazy. Because we've also got walrus skips soon as well.
Oh boy.
So
coming up... Go ahead. Alright, coming up here is the Dungeon 3 boss, the, I don't know, slime blob thing. It's basically free if you have Piece of Power. You just need to split the eye and then slash each of them twice, which you do by... you basically slash them twice, then you bonk off the wall to avoid a bit of stun. Then you catch them as they're falling.
So, the good thing about Piece of Power here is that it increases the damage you deal to them. But there is also a side effect of Piece of Power that isn't so great on that. And it's the first phase when we're trying to split. Because when you hit something whilst you have Piece of Power, it actually gives the target immunity frames for a few frames. Which means we can't just spam the sword on the eyes. We have to sort of do it in sort of like a rhythm, as it were.
And we sort of missed it there, but aulos did a trick just now called a bomb trigger, in which you place 2 bombs within 4 frames of one another. He did that during the screen transition, and it skipped the owl flying in and flying out, so it saves a couple seconds there. And we'll be getting another bomb trigger very shortly called, which is a famous trick called Walrus Skip. And this one, as Kravon mentioned, there is a very big risk of soft locking depending how you react to it. For the tournament rules, both players are allowed to make a save in that house aulos just passed, next to the bunny, but hopefully they won't need to use it. It's the only... Sorry, go ahead.
We don't really see that many soft locks here, given how likely it is to do it. Because the way this works is that there's always a position that you are after doing the bomb trigger, and that's always one of 2 positions. And if you're able to identify which of those positions you're in, you know what your next input is going to be.
Actually, it looked like aulos did the method that Bamboo Shadow found, which there is no reaction required. You just hold left after you've done your bomb trigger and mash, and you'll leave with no issues. But they had to enter that cave there because after doing Walrus Skip, their controls are locked apart from directions, because the game seems to think they're still in a cutscene. So they enter and exit that cave, and then fight Landmola, and get the key for Dungeon 4, which is where they're heading now. And along the way, there's not really a lot of interesting tech. It's basically just trying to optimize their movement as much as possible, not lose time picking up items if they have to, and booting wherever they can. Along the way, Bow Wow will kill some enemies, and some people who are better than me probably try to keep track of their kills to try to better root their piece of power. But really, at this point, it's kind of RNG for them.
So Aulos actually going a different route here. I don't know if that's actually fast. I want to say it's not faster.
Yeah, it looked a bit slower since they were basically neck and neck before that. But I don't know, he's probably timed it out. And if he does it, it's probably because he has timed it to be faster. Or maybe he just finds, whatever it's called, boot queuing, boot buffer, that's it. Maybe he finds that difficult to do. So, having opened up D4, they're now heading up into the cliffs here, where they'll be able to drop down to the doorway, because, as you saw, there's water all around the door and they can't swim yet. The flippers are actually the D4 item, so it's impossible to swim to there without having done the dungeon.
So, on ElPhezo's screen and now on Aulos' screen, we're seeing one of the most important pieces of tech in the run, and it's called Obstacle Skip. It saves half a second, and if you fail it, you lose 2 seconds. But to us as a community, it's one of the most important things to do in the run.
Yeah, when I started learning, I had no idea that you weren't supposed to do it, or like how limited the save is, but it's like half a second saved if you do it, and 2 seconds lost if you fail it, which is very easy.
The funny thing is, there used to be 3 of those in a run, and it was like so much so that if you failed it once, you lost more time than if you got it first try on all 3 occasions.
And shoutouts to Dumb Jump 1 here, on ElPhezo's screen.
Jump 1.
This is a jump where you have to jump around that block and then also push yourself back on to avoid landing in water. A lot of new runners find it very difficult, and I'm sure some of even the experienced runners find it a pain in the butt. And
some of the
hello,
more
Cue Ball.
experienced
Goodbye,
runners
Cue
don't
Ball.
even try it.
Yeah, like, if for anyone who's watched the recent races, there's some people I've seen who have just opted to bomb the rock and go through there. When you're doing a race, it's often nicer to just do a safe strat. So once again, the players are neck and neck. This is amazing.
This sort of worries me a bit because this looks like it's going to be a race decided by Aghanim and Deathel.
Yeah, there is a lot of RNG. I'd say like D6 and the final boss are the big sources of RNG that could make or break this for somebody. And of course,
Yeah.
Rooster Skip if someone decides to fail that.
None of those are really any fun losing a race to, either. Though, I feel Dungeon 5 could make a difference as well. So, Dungeon 5 is the longest dungeon in the speedrun. And this is the dungeon that we really, really want to get a piece of power in. Because there's so much moving around that getting a piece of power early saves so much time. And Aulos just managing to avoid getting the acorn after getting the piece of power. That was pretty close.
Yeah,
so
if
both
he
runners,
had grabbed that, piece of power would have been gone, and he would have been very upset.
so both runners getting piece of power exactly where they wanted it. Now, I don't think we mentioned. Piece of power will last until you exit the dungeon, or until you take 3 hits from enemies. So, the thing with Dungeon 5, it's very easy to take hits of damage just randomly in places. So, one of the biggest challenges of this dungeon is to keep that piece of power for as long as you can.
It's also sort of a problem because the dungeon boss is a bit easier to do without piece of power because piece of power gives it a bit of invincibility after being hit. So people want to lose piece of power by the end of the dungeon, but they don't want to lose it too early. So it makes it it can be really scary if you take planned hits early on and then mess it up later.
So as a result of that, we're likely to see, if either of them have piece of power near the end of the dungeon, we're likely to see them try and lose it on the very last room before the boss.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen either of them take a hit. Well, Aulos just took one, but apart from that, I think they're both unscathed. In a couple of rooms, they'll probably go for a damage boost off of a blooper enemy, and then after that, they'll probably try to keep it until the end of the dungeon. So ElPhezo, I guess, tries to play it safe. He doesn't want to lose any hits on his piece of power, but Aulos is more than happy to do so. So at this point, if Aulos takes one more point of damage, he will lose piece of power. And here we have Dumb Jump 2, which they both get no problem. You're supposed to get Hookshot to pull that bridge across, which is the dungeon item, but it's a bit quicker to just jump across there with Pegasus boots.
I think the game developers underestimated how far you can actually jump. Almost getting a pretty nice wall clip there to go past the spikes. And both of them getting decent Helmasaur RNG as well.
Yeah, the trouble with Helmasaur is that you have to be facing the same direction as them to kill them with your sword. Normally you need 2 hits, with piece of power only 1, so taking away a bit of RNG from killing them is always nice. Just like that, Master Stalfos is dead with a few bomb arrows, and he'll now drop Hookshot for them. The Hookshot, or the Noob Shot as some people call it, ends up being possibly the most broken item in the game, as we'll see in a couple of dungeons. We'll explain it a bit more then. The Aulos just lost his piece of power there. It's not too much of a problem because he doesn't have too many enemies to kill. And yeah, he's not even gonna bother grabbing that new one for the speed.
At that point, it would have lost him time because he would have gotten a text box from it, and then he would have had to lose it before the final boss. So ElPhezo are going to lose it here on this spark, exactly where he wants to lose it.
Yeah, that spark is the last enemy before the boss, so it's the best place to lose it for him.
So, the reason why you want to lose piece of power is that on this boss, you can 2-cycle it if you land 4 hits in each cycle, pulling him out of the wall. With piece of power, it actually gives him immunity frames when you hit him, which makes it incredibly hard to hit him 4 times, which often results in a 3-cycle rather than a 2-cycle. So ElPhezo getting an absolutely perfect wall snake fight.
And actually we saw Aulos get 5 hits. Oh, I thought maybe the snake was too far into the wall for it to count.
Yeah, sometimes the last hit doesn't count if it's too close to the wall. But both of them getting a absolutely perfect wall snake fight. I mean, there's not much better than that.
So right now the players are both on their way to Dungeon 6, but along the way they need to get the dungeon key from the southern face shrine. In this section you see a lot of booting around to go as fast as you can and optimize movement. We'll be coming up on what's called the Armos Maze, where they will hope that Bow Wow eats things to clear the path for them, just so it goes as quickly as possible, and pick up a few extra arrows. The bomb and arrow routes throughout the game can be sort of tight, and this is a good place to actually get arrow pickups, just to make sure you have enough for tricks coming up. So each of the Armos statues are guaranteed to drop an arrow if Bow Wow eats them. There are certain ones that Bow Wow will pretty much always eat, and then the arrows from them are pretty easy to pick up. You may not even have to stop.
Now you can actually manipulate Bow Wow by your entering position onto the screen. Now what we're seeing ElPhezo do here, and presumably aulos, is bootstrats, and bootstrats is basically, it makes this look like a speedrun when you kill a boss this quickly. Everyone does bootstrats differently, and different methods work for different people.
And we see ElPhezo here being too cool to put his shield back on. Most players put their shield back on for the rest of the maze because they can push the statues, but he's just relying on Bow Wow to do his job.
So
and if you're low on hearts, this is a really scary screen. So those bombs will do, I think, 2 hearts of damage. And if you die, it takes you right back to the Armos temple.
So you took a damage boost off that last Armos as well.
Yep. Right here, ElPhezo does a trick where you basically get Bow Wow to eat a cutscene. So you saw Bow Wow jump at something there, and then Fezzo was free to move. He was basically eating the cutscene of that dungeon appearing.
We'll see another appear of this later on as well.
Hopefully.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes it doesn't happen with Dungeon 7.
Yeah, Dungeon 7 it's a bit tricky to time, so not everyone gets it every time. And ElPhezo saving bombs and arrows there. Just goes for sword strats. But Olo's going for the cooler looking strategy. So we didn't mention it earlier, but when we went to D4, we didn't actually finish the dungeon, simply because it triggers a side quest to occur, in which we have to escort a ghost to his home and then to his grave, and it just takes too much time. So by not finishing the dungeon at that point, we avoid doing that sub-quest, and then picking up the level 2 bracelet prevents that quest from ever occurring. So after completing this dungeon, both players will go back to D4 and finish it then. And right now, ElPhezo has just hookshot a pot from right next to it, which makes you invincible for the entire room, at least until you use your hookshot again. And I can't get over how close these guys are.
This is gonna come down to Aghanim or even Deathor if they get the same number of blue balls.
Now we'll see how Horseheads goes here too.
Usually if you get bad Horsehead RNG, it doesn't lose you too much time. But in this kind of situation, we could actually see Horseheads being quite instrumental in changing this result.
Oh, that's unlucky.
That's a bit of an awkward place to get Piece of Power, to be fair. He's probably glad to get Piece of Power, but he had to redo the super jump.
So this super jump that ElPhezo is doing right now, it is possible to soft lock on, but for the tournament rules, if you were to do so, he could save and quit, and just go back to the room and continue there. It loses time, but at least he can keep going. But luckily neither player soft locked.
So Aulos was being very careful not to soft lock there. He took his time on that one.
So right here on ElPhezo's screen is the horse heads. Each horse head has a 50-50 chance of landing upright, and you need both of them to land upright to continue. He got it on second try, which is very good. And aulos got it on fourth try, so he lost a little bit of time to that. But there's still more spots in the game where RNG could screw ElPhezo over and allow aulos to catch up.
It looked like Aulos had done a missed menu at some point, and it looked like he was trying to fix his menu there.
And on ElPhezo's screen you see the easiest boss in the game. aulos going in, and he'll get 3 hits with his bombs before the face even appears. And after that it's only another 2 bombs to kill it. And you can ignore that TGH practices guy, he's not even very good at the game. So don't take anything he says too seriously. Savage words from TGH. Anyway, both players are now heading back to D4 to finish it up. It's actually a pretty quick route from Dungeon 6 to Dungeon 4, and it's a lot nicer than the route we took back when I started running, where you had to swim for 5 or 6 screens. So going through that cave is a lot nicer.
So we're gonna see from ElPhezo here, probably one of the best looking super jumps in the game. And we will super jump and slash a P-hat to bonk downwards to be able to actually get this nightmare key. Now there is a bit of timing in this. If you do it too early, you won't actually make it across the wall. So we had to wait for a bit there.
Yeah, there's a similar jump you can do in Dungeon 7, which we may or may not see, but there's a newer strategy that is RNG based that is quicker, but it's questionable whether people will try to do that or go for the safe strat.
I think ElPhezo is going to do the P-hat strat. He usually does that. He doesn't seem to like the Goomba Surf, so I'm not expecting him to do Goomba Surf. I am expecting Aulos to do Goomba Surf though.
So for that angler spin slash, do you know if that's actually frame per pixel perfect? Because I've heard people saying it is, and it feels a lot easier than that.
I'm not so sure. So, we've got a question in chat about the save and quit menu. So, when they open a chest, they bring up the save and quit menu to cancel out some text that would appear. So it's quicker to open the save and quit menu, close it again, than to get the text.
And that's faster for every chest except for, I believe, the very first chest in the game with 50 rupees. If you mash through that one, it is... If you're frame perfect, I believe it is actually faster. So coming up, ElPhezo's second chance for a proper obstacle skip.
Some say runners that don't get 2 obstacle skips are to never win races.
Oh, but you gotta appreciate the determination.
Well, it's 3rd try, I mean... Is this going to be 4th try? I mean, at this point he's lost way more than half a second.
Man, who even cares though if it looks cool?
That's some dedication though. When
Aulos, however, gets the proper obstacle skip. So ElPhezo is now going into a trick called Rooster Skip. When you use... Actually, you can use hookshot while you're in a pit, and for 1 frame, when it comes back, you're actually treated as if you're on solid ground, so he's able to jump here. And this is entirely frame perfect, but he managed to do it without falling into the pit.
So,
Not...
if you fall in the pit there, you lose about half a minute.
Oh,
and
Aulos...
Aulos...
is losing it.
Yeah, he fell in.
There is also a buffered method you can do by using the save and quit menu to advance the game 1 frame at a time, but it's much slower than a unbuffered version, but it is also safer.
Unfortunately, that sort of stopped them from being close together now. Aulos getting 2nd try Rooster Skip.
Yeah, we'll see if ElPhezo might just save and quit in that room everyone hates in D8. That'd be nice of him.
Yeah, that would be unfortunate. So, I reckon Aulos can still catch up, because if ElPhezo gets any amount of bad RNG on the final boss, it could make a difference.
Yeah, he does have a very good bomb count here right now, so unless he does the pit version of the bomb triggers and completely butchers it, he shouldn't have any issues there.
So, this, we break this dungeon pretty heavily with bomb triggers. As you're gonna see, he's gonna bomb trigger every single pillar.
Yeah, normally you'd have to get a giant ball from the room to the right of here, and carry it around the dungeon, throwing it across pits to break the pillars, but that's just too much of a pain for anyone, and bomb triggers will do the trick.
I mean, it looks so stupid, but it just looks so much like a speedrun.
Yeah, like a lot of the speedrun, it doesn't necessarily feel like one because you're still doing the same dungeon order as a casual run for the most part, but stuff like this is where the game really shines and really looks speedy. I mean, like, things like super jumps, a casual person or player could watch that and be like, oh, okay, you got that, like, little... You trick the game into thinking you're going off a ledge, very cute. But, I mean, bomb triggers... What in the hell is going on?
I'm not even sure we know why it works.
Like, I've got a working theory, but it's... We have no way of confirming it without digging into assembly code, and no one wants to do that.
I think everyone has a theory, and everyone's theory is completely different to everyone else.
I recall your theory of the developers intending to put it in.
Oh, I was joking about that, but I mean, that is a possibility. My theory is that's to do with sprites on the screen.
Yeah, my thought was Like, there's some memory addresses used for timer variables, and bombs go at, like, the right end of the row, and cutscene things go at the left end, so I think it's just some sort of, like, whatever, byte overflow. Which, from a programming standpoint, makes sense, but...
Aulos getting second try Goomba Surf, which at that point probably is quicker than the P-Hat Super Jump, but not by much.
Yeah, the Goomba Surf is very RNG dependent. Each Goomba can go one of 4 directions, obviously. So it's, in theory, a 25% chance of the Goomba going the way you want him to, but in practice it ends up being a lot lower. So now they're on their way to D8, and in another screen you'll see ElPhezo skipping over, saving Marin. The Moblins have kidnapped her and placed her on a bridge, but we don't care. If you actually ended up talking to her, I think it's about a 45-second time loss, but we're able to do that jump and avoid her entirely.
So I find it funny that we actually managed to skip Marin twice in the same run, because Walrus skip is, in essence, a Marin skip as well.
Yeah. Actually, like, when I started racing, we still did Dungeon 8 before D7, so we didn't even see Marin there. And when I had to learn that jump, I didn't like it. It's a bit tight timing, because you kind of have to mash your jump here immediately after the dialogue.
So through the use of wall clipping and invincibility frames, ElPhezo is able to skip that flame, which otherwise you would need the mirror shield for. You may have noticed he didn't pick up the mirror shield because we never go past it in the run. And even when we did go past in the run, we still didn't pick up because it would have taken longer to open the chest.
However, you are supposed to grab it in Hundo. Shoutouts to Xander. So we didn't really mention it, but you did another bomb trigger to get into D8. Ordinarily you'd need a song on your ocarina in order to wake the turtle, but we don't have the song or the ocarina, so we use bomb triggers for that as well.
Yeah, bomb triggers really do just remove any need of the ocarina in the game.
On ElPhezo failing a little damage boost there, but doesn't lose him too much time. He's just done another super jump, which skips a good portion of the dungeon. He's on his way to the mini-boss, Blano.
So, ElPhezo pulling out quite a decent lead here, which he's gonna need to as sort of like a buffer zone if he gets some really bad RNG on the final boss.
Yeah, it seems he's grabbing the fairy there as a safety strat against Hothead, despite already having 7 hearts.
So Hothead can do 4 hearts of damage if one of his fireballs hit you. So it can be a little bit scary sometimes if you do get hit. Most people don't tend to get hit though.
And here we have Q-Ball again. He's just as easy as the first time. And then in this next turn we have a sliding block puzzle where you have to push this block and then use your D-pad to control its movement. It's possible to jump while it's moving, and Link will move in the direction you're pressing. And the players use that to try to get as close as possible to this chest. while the block is moving.
He managed to avoid Civ and quitting there.
Very unfortunate.
Did you say unfortunate?
Yeah. For those not in the know, ElPhezo accidentally save and quit on that chest on a PB pace run.
His
50 minutes
reaction was
into the
pretty
run.
spectacular.
So here we have Hothead. He's not exactly a hard boss, but it can be hard to get in quickly, simply because you have to time your magic rod shots properly. And coming up is possibly a graphical glitch from ElPhezo. And congratulations to him.
Oh, he's actually paused on the screen as well. Aulos having a absolutely amazing D8 room. It was right in front of the chest when it spawned.
So right now ElPhezo is on his way to the Windfish Egg, wherein he will face the final boss of the game. But now it's just a little bit of movement through a swamp, killing any flowers with his magic rod. And then when he gets to the egg, he'll be doing another bomb trigger to get around the fact that he still doesn't have the ocarina.
So Aulos getting a 2-circle on Hothead.
And ElPhezo is saying in Discord chat, "Wang boys." So props to him for taking time out of his run to do that.
I think it's probably due to the fact that he's in the longest cutscene of the game, which Bow Wow can eat a lot of things, but we still have not found a way to get Bow Wow to eat this cutscene. If it's even possible, I mean, it might not even be possible.
I tried toying around with it yesterday, and I don't know, nothing I did worked. But they're also better people than me.
Yeah, Aulos deciding not to go for that graphical glitch.
So as someone in the chat had asked earlier if it's possible to manipulate the maze in this section, and yes it is. If you don't read the book that gives you the solution, it's always the same. Otherwise it's randomized.
Yeah, it has a default solution, but reading the book is the trigger point of it changing that solution. Although sometimes the solution is the same even though you read the book, but that's the trigger point for the solution to change if it is going to change.
And ElPhezo's just done the last bomb trigger in the run, where you skip a bit of dialogue from this final boss, and also mess up the music. And he also got the quick kill on the first form, which is semi-RNG.
It's looking good for ElPhezo, although this is the biggest RNG point of this boss. So, Agnem, after the second good ball, he has a 50-50 chance of giving a blue ball, which is, well, it's not really blue, but we take it from the fact that it's a blue ball in A Link to the Past. Now, unlike A Link to the Past, there is nothing to stop an infinite amount of blue balls happening. So, it's just waiting until you get 2 yellow balls in a row.
And he only ended up with 2 balls there, so that's actually better than normal RNG.
Each blue ball that you get costs you 8 seconds. So it does quickly add up.
It looks like Aulos also got the text skip on the boss. So depending on how ElPhezo's RNG goes on this coming phase, Aulos could still technically catch up, but it's unlikely.
Aulos could also still PB.
Oh, I sure hope he does at this rate. He's got... Actually, you said his race the other day was still 58, so he's got about 3 minutes.
We'll see from SRL as well, because that's his SRL PB. So, ElPhezo initially not getting the best of RNG, but then he got the best RNG from Deathel there near the end. Deathel was opening his eye as soon as he was closing it again. And so...
By some frames.
ElPhezo finishes with an SRL time of 55 minutes and 30 seconds.
That's only about 30 seconds behind his PB. That's pretty good pace.
Put in perspective, only 8 runners have ever gone quicker than that, including himself.
And I forgot to count, but it looked like aulos actually got pretty good blue balls there.
Yeah, it looks like this could be a PB for aulos. Even with an average Deathel, he could still PB, and probably still will.
Yeah, I'll be pretty surprised if it's not a PB. So yeah, we're seeing a bit of crummy RNG from Deathel, but it should still be a PB, I think.
Ultimately, they're gonna finish very close together, despite aulos dropping Rooster Skip. Wow, this is actually quite bad RNG.
Oh yeah.
So frustrating when you get bad RNG on Deathel, because there's nothing you can do. It's pure RNG. Wow, this is pretty extraordinary. I don't think I've seen RNG this bad for ages.
There we go.
And he only needed the 1 hit as well. That is still most likely going to be a PB for him. So aulos finishes with an SRL time of 57 minutes and 35 seconds, and it is indeed a PB by 51 seconds.
Oh no. Oh no.
Oh no.
Alright, well we've got ElPhezo in the waiting room, so we're just gonna bring him in for a post-race interview. And if aulos wants to, he's welcome to hop in as well. Hey guys.
Hey.
Do you hear ElPhezo?
ElPhezo.
Hello, hello.
I'm just reading all these memes on aulos' stream.
Oh god.
There's a lot of them. GG both of you.
Thank you very much.
Congrats on the win, ElPhezo, and congrats on the PB aulos.
Yeah, I PB'd with a second try rooster skip.
Hey, guys.
What can I say?
Oh wow, what was the time, Alice?
Do you
I
hear
PB'd by
ElPhezo?
like 2 seconds.
Hello, hello.
I'm just reading all these memes on aulos' stream.
Very nice.
My death film was
Oh, God.
horrible.
There's a lot of them.
How many blue balls?
3.
GG both of you.
Thank you very
That-
much.
That Deathel, congrats on the win, ElPhezo, and I don't think I've ever seen such bad Deathel RNG.
Yeah, I PB'd with a second try rooster skip. What
Yeah,
can I
well,
say?
it was
Oh,
kind of
wow.
my
What
fault
was the
because
time, Alice?
I had only one arrow left, and
I
that
PB'd
was
by
because
like
I
2 seconds,
missed one. So that shouldn't have happened.
57,
I guess.
34.
Very nice.
And my death
Yeah,
film
that was a
horrible.
great race though. You
How many
guys
blue
probably
balls?
couldn't see, but you were neck and neck up until
Yeah.
I think just about horse
Yeah,
times.
that
Like,
that Deathel
on the
was
same screen
extraordinary.
at the same time.
I don't think
Really?
I've ever
Wow.
seen such bad Deathel
Rooster-
RNG. Like, you were together almost until Rooster Skip
Yeah,
as
well,
well.
it was kind of my fault because I
Yeah,
had
I
only
failed
one arrow
rooster skip.
left.
I know
and
I
that was
had
because
lost.
I
Yeah, I had actually a lot of trouble with that segment myself, just because I wanted to make sure I got the what do you call it, obstacle skip. So I wasted about 10 seconds on that, and then my rooster skip was less than perfect as well.
Yeah, we
Yeah, that was
appreciate
some
your
dedication.
determination.
Yeah, I knew you guys would. I was
Really? Wow.
nervous about that and about anglerfish because I knew you would never let me live it down, Krugon.
Oh, definitely not.
Yeah, there's a guy in chat named TGH who is like he thinks it's impossible. So
Yeah, I had
congrats
actually
to you
a lot
guys
of
being
trouble
able
with
to do
that
it
segment
without any hook
myself, just
shots.
because
He
I
also-
wanted to make sure I
He
got
also
the
thought
what
facade was
do you call
impossible
it,
as well.
obstacle skip. So I wasted about 10 seconds on that.
Is this
and
how
my
the whole
rooster skip
commentary's
was
been, or what?
less than perfect as well.
No, we've been doing good commentary, I think.
It's
I
just
knew you guys would.
TGH
I was
in chat
nervous
speaking.
about that and about anglerfish.
It's
'cause I
almost
knew you
like
would
he
never
thinks
let
he's
me
a
live it down,
speedrunner.
Krugon. Yeah, I think I've heard of him before. I think he does like Undertale or something, but you know.
Yeah, maybe one day he'll get a world record somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know.
Dude, I look at my splits and I see Rooster Skip lost 40 seconds.
Is this
and
how the whole commentary's
last
been, or
boss
what?
lost 35 seconds. Nice. Nice game. Sadness.
Yeah, that would
Yeah,
have
I think I've
made
heard
it
of him before.
very
I think
close
he
to
does
the
like
end.
Undertale or something, but you know. So did Aulos get Wang? Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, I forgot
Yeah,
again.
unfortunately.
You did not.
Oh my
okay.
god, I always forget it. Shriek. I'm so bad at it.
So it may be worth noting that you guys have, with this race, officially made it impossible for Cravone to continue on. How do you feel about that?
Wow. I didn't think we would talk about this so soon, but I feel a little bad about it actually.
Actually, no, it's not impossible, because if I were to beat ElPhezo with a quicker time than Aulos beat me, would that not put me ahead? Would that not put me in second?
So
Oh,
what
yeah,
I'm
you have 2 wins.
what I'm hearing is you don't want me to meme too hard because you really, I mean, otherwise you might actually move on, right?
Oh, it's not a matter of whether I beat you or not, it's whether I beat Aulos' time as well.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. So if Cravone gets a 33-minute run, I think that's probably doable.
Yeah.
Sounds about right. Is that including the soft lock to Dodongo skip?
I was actually really nervous about that part. That was the part of the game I was most nervous about in the race, just because I didn't want to soft lock, and I actually failed the second jump the first time, so I was a little disappointed in myself. But no soft lock arenas, luckily.
Hmm.
You had the perfect wall snake fight, ElPhezo.
It wasn't too bad, yeah. I
Wasn't
mean,
too bad. The first two that you came out, you got it.
I mean, you could actually do it faster if you get 5 hits on the first cycle, so it's not actually optimal.
You can even 6 hits on the first cycle.
See, there you go. That's how bad I am. I'm 2 hits behind.
You see, Aulos, we thought you got 5 hits on the first one, and then the second one you had to hit 4 times. Do you reckon maybe there was one of those hits that was eaten up by the wall?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, my first cycle was like the closest to the wall. And when you get the close wall snake, it's really very hard to get a 5 hits. Usually, I go for the 5th, but I just bonk, you know.
So, Aulos, did you go for a Goomba Surf, or did you go P-Hat jump?
Where, when?
In
Yeah,
D7?
Aulos-
Oh no, I
Aulos
always
got
go
second
for
try.
Goomba Surf. Yeah.
Second try Goomba Surf.
Dude, I
Which-
always go for Goomba Surf. I invented it, you know.
Okay, well, I'd never go for it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm not very good at it.
So have we got any more questions for them?
I don't know, you're the asker.
I don't know, I think I'm all out.
I think I'm out as well.
I've asked about them bopping you, so I'm good.
Shout out to Cravone and the race on Tuesday.
It's quite hard to really like ask someone in an interview about a run where there wasn't really that much that went wrong, was there? Like, both of you had sort of like quite a smooth run. I mean, I know, Aulos, you had second try rooster skip and some really, really bad RNG at the end.
Yeah, and I screwed on my menu at the first until Dungeon 4. I couldn't get to fix it. That was really annoying for me.
Yeah, I thought I saw you fix it in Dungeon 6.
No, I fixed it in the first obstacle skip, which I failed, by the way, but I still I still did it even though I failed the first jump.
That's okay. ElPhezo had fourth try obstacle skip on the second try.
Yeah, it was a mess. I fell down the pit a couple times. I kind of ran into the obstacle. I got it in the end, though.
You got the text box as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys were neck and neck for easily the first half of that race.
I'm glad we made it a decent race then. Yeah, Aulos had me a little nervous. He was, getting the 57s, and, sometimes I don't get even a 57, so I'm happy that I beat you, but great time, man. You had me sweating the whole time.
I was just praying you failed rooster skip like 3 times or so.
I was very close to failing it the first time. I got very fortunate on the pit RNG there.
Yeah, I shouldn't have failed it. I had a good setup too, but
Yeah, you had a lot of hook shots there, and I was kind of worried about it too.
I was very worried about it myself.
Yeah, all in all, it was a great race. And congratulations to both of you. So,
Yeah.
Aulos, I don't know if you mentioned, but that is a PB for you?
yeah, that's a PB by 4 seconds. Nice, wow.
PB is a PB.
Congrats, dude.
Shame PBs, thanks.
Maybe next time Deathel will be less of a knob. You can shave a minute off of that.
Is that bad, huh?
Definitely.
You have to see the VOD, ElPhezo. That
Yeah.
was...
I'll
I
to
have
check it
never
out.
seen something as bad as that. I mean,
I'm
like,
definitely gonna watch the VOD anyway.
we've got world records for blue balls. I wonder, when do we start having a world record for time
Deathel.
taken for Deathel to open his eye?
I don't know, I think ElPhezo's the only one who times that section.
Oh,
He's probably got a split for it.
I do kind of have that kind of segmented off a little bit, but not quite that much. All right, well, I guess I'm getting out of here, guys. Thanks for commentating. GG, Aulos.
Yeah, GG, dude.
All right, see you next time with Cravone.
Yeah, good luck for the next race, ElPhezo and Cravon.
Thank you very much. All right, see you guys.
See you guys. And since we don't have any more Link's Awakening races for the night, I guess we're off as well. So, thanks for everyone for watching, and the next race will be tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern Time if you want to catch it. And that will be on the same channel. So, good night, I guess.
See ya.